Hello Penguinauts, I'm the Beardy Penguin, and welcome back to Fall of Kerbin. Now, the Kerthenian forces are in full retreat after a string of victories by our glorious navy, and we have secured Asia's front for our own. It's surely only a matter of time before we completely destroy Tape's navy, and in the meantime, we've started targeting his industrial base. However, there is a slight problem. You see, to continue smashing Tape's industrial base and force an unconditional surrender from him, we kind of need to have air superiority. Well, if not superiority, we kind of need to at least clear the skies of Kerthenian aircraft so that we can drop bombs on their cities and destroy their factories without having to worry about losing bombers, because we've seen in previous turns sending unescorted bombers up against cities with fighter cover is not a good idea. So what we're doing is launching 5 T-9 Falcon aircraft to go mop up the remains of the Kerthenian Air Force. Now, there's one fighter at Osiris Bay right now, which is a completely destroyed city, and Tape seems to have just abandoned any idea of trying to repair or get it operational again. This is the fighter that shot down our bomber last turn. I completely underestimated how much damage a single fighter could do, and so we're going to get ourselves a little bit of revenge. 5-on-1, not at all fair, and some people might even say a bit shitty, but I don't, you need to appreciate this is war, okay? War isn't fair. Some people are like, oh, you should only ever have battles with perfectly even numbers, and everyone should have the same tanks, and everyone should have... Because it's... No. Nothing would happen. There would just be a continuous stalemate. No, the whole point of this series is exploiting weaknesses in the enemy defense, and exploiting the weaknesses in enemy craft design, etc., and outmaneuvering, outflanking the enemy. You don't want to have an even playing field, because then you don't know who's going to win. You only want to engage the enemy when you know you can win. I believe it was Aaron Rommel that said, no, never engage in a battle unless you actually gain something from winning. Something some advice we really should have taken at the first battle of Osiris Fortress, when we lost our entire northern fleet for no real gain whatsoever. But anyway, here we go. Tape's little fighter is S4F Falcon. He also called his fighters Falcons for some reason. He's just not very good at naming things, apparently. It does put up a bit of a fight, but it only has 50 cals, and as I said, it is hopelessly outnumbered. You can see we're using the AI pilot here because we just cannot fly aircraft manually anymore. The control issues that we're having make it just completely impossible, so we have to use the AI pilot to have them fly the aircraft for us, although we are updating to 1.2 next turn, so hopefully those issues will be fixed and we can get back to having our dogfights with now same flight. But sure enough, it flies around and it puts up a little bit of a fight, but it doesn't last particularly long. We have 20 mils and there are 5 of us, so sure enough, put some fire in, and there we go, blown out of the sky. Boom! There it goes, and it plummets into the ocean below. Well, I guess this would be a little lagoon. This is sort of quite an enclosed area around Osiris Bay, which is probably why it's called, Osiris Bay. It's a bay, Beardy. I don't know where I was going with that, but there we are. Sure enough, Tape's only fighter aircraft plummets into the cold water below, and it is certainly cold water because winter is beginning to set in Kerthenia and Kruolan, and sure enough, snow is going to be on the ground relatively soon. We've installed Copernicus in our 1.2 install. We're going to have snow, and it's going to be cool. Hint, hint. Sorry, that wasn't particularly well hinted. But anyway, so our next target are Tape's 2 remaining aircraft, which are 2 Pythons, which I don't think is a particularly good name for an aircraft whatsoever. Like, snakes don't fly, Tape. You think you'd name your aircraft after something that actually flies, but nonetheless, 2 Python attack aircraft, and they do have 50 cal tail guns, which you need to be wary of, but they're really quite slow and they're quite clumsy, and we really don't have to worry about them too much. They send some 50 cal fire towards us, but those tail guns have been massively nerfed since the beginning of the World War II era. They've only got a 1 kilometer range, and they're quite inaccurate. And our 20 mils have got a 2 kilometer range, so as long as we keep our distance from them, and obviously they're hopelessly outnumbered and not particularly maneuverable, so yeah, they really didn't stand much of a chance whatsoever. Those tail guns as well, you need to be able to actually train it on the target. You need to be flying relatively level to get a shot, and as you see, as soon as they do that, they're a sitting duck for our 20 mils, and the first Python gets blown out of the sky immediately, frankly. Tape really should have clustered his aircraft together, maybe put his fighter to try and protect his Pythons. There wasn't much point in having fighter cover over Osiris Bay, considering the city's flattened now. I'm not exactly going to be bombing it anymore. I'm not a sadist, okay? I'm not that bloodthirsty. I'm just bombing it to the point where his industrial capacity has been reduced by a third. I'm not going out of my way to murder his civilians. But anyway, here we go. We're closing in on the final Python, just manoeuvring around. There we go, lining up some shots. We've got all of our wingmen ready as well, and we get shots intertwining from 3 separate Falcons, and it just gets cut to pieces. They never really stood a chance, to be honest. And there we are. We've pretty much annihilated the Kerthenian Air Force. I mean, he still has his fleet air arm, but there's little point in going and attacking the aircraft on his carrier, because he could just replace it because his carrier is in port right now. But there we have it. Speaking of naval stuff, though, the invasion of Osiris Fortress is approaching rapidly, and we've launched 2 Adeli-class light cruisers to defend the KUS Franco, because Tape, he had an opportunity to sink the Franco last turn. We left it completely unprotected, and he launched 3 attackers to try and sink it. He didn't use torpedoes, thank God. He tried to bomb it, and it didn't go particularly well for him whatsoever. He really should have used torpedoes, but thankfully he blew his single opportunity to sink it, and now it's protected by 2 anti-aircraft cruisers. So good luck bombing that again, Tape. Also, that little supply unit that was with the Franco there has headed forward to refuel and resupply 3 of our Snares-class submarines, which can now head into the waters around Osiris Fortress, sinking convoys and generally being annoying. And they're all spaced out at least 15 kilometers apart, so if Tape does manage to find one of them and depth charge it, he has not guaranteed that he's actually going to be able to find the others as well. So they're all very well spread out, and if Tape doesn't manage to sink them, next turn he's going to have some problems. We can close in and we can do some serious damage to his fleet while it's still in port, unless he puts up some torpedo nets or something, which would kind of screw with our plans. But here we go. Our colossal southern fleet has set sail from a Sears front after securing it last turn. It's going to take 4 turns for this to arrive at Osiris Bay, but in the meantime it's going to link up with the Franco, those 2 cruisers, and possibly another super battleship which we may launch next turn. So it's not looking good for the Kerthenian Navy and for Osiris Fortress. And finally, we've decided to launch 2 more heavy tanks at Valley's Guard. Nothing particularly exciting, but if we launch anything smaller than a heavy tank, it's going to be hopelessly obsolete when we move into the next era next turn, because of course this is the end of the World War II era and we are moving into late World War II. That means wonder weapons such as jets and V1s and V2s. The winter's going to set in, so we're going to have snow, all sorts of cool stuff. And we're actually really excited. We're also updating to 1.2.2, which means we have a bunch of new things. I don't want to spoil too much right now. We also have added treads, as I'm sure you've seen in other videos by now, but we've got a lot of plans for the next era, so you might have to wait a little while after Tape's turn while we get our mods all working in 1.2.2, and we're completely overhauling how the armor system on our tanks works. But it should be pretty awesome. Hope you're looking forward to it as much as I am, and I'll see you all next time. Bye everyone.